Hey Giants fans and football fans, welcome to the Giants Grit channel, your fan channel with the New York Giants review and views that are honest, rational, sometimes irrational point of view without the theatrics. So, moving on to the game. The Giants lost again to the Washington Commanders 27-22. It was 21-7 at the half. They played them close, but not good enough. The basic summary is they lost the game because, and here I am, broken record, because of Daniel Jones, the quarterbacking, and also the interior defensive line. They just got blown off the ball too much. They were fooled with misdirection. They couldn't find the ball. They were getting lost. And of course, it was a trickle-down effect. It affected the linebackers as well as the safeties as far as tackling, because all the tackling was done downfield. So starting with the offense, let's get to quarterback. Daniel Jones was 20 of 26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did have a really bad fumble. He only averaged like 6.5 yards a throw. So yeah, not good enough again. I mean, it was actually one of his better games, but again, broken record. He's just way below average. He's a bad starting quarterback, and he's a below average backup quarterback. But unfortunately, the Giants think he's the best that they have on the roster, their best quarterback. But I'd rather go with Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock at this point. But obviously, I'm not running the Giants. So again, Jones, he ran for 54 yards. He did run better, at least the design plays for him to run just looked like they were better designed, number one, and he seemed to wait until the blocking was there, or at least it was some way he just ran better than, kind of looked like the Daniel Jones of old running, so he was a threat. Also, but just the awareness, the pass blocking was good, except for a couple of plays, maybe 3 or 4 pressures that Washington got to him. But one of them, Chris Hubbard was beaten on a pass rush, and Daniel Jones turned around. And as soon as he saw the rusher, he threw it into the defensive tackle's hands, which fortunately he dropped it. It was ruled a fumble right there and gave Washington the ball on the Giants' 30-yard line, which they went ahead to score for the first scoring of the game. Daniel Jones did not see it, 0 awareness. Almost any other quarterback would have stepped up in the pocket and got rid of the ball. But unfortunately, he saw it's like, ooh, a rusher, instead of eating the ball and taking the sack or just getting rid of it earlier. Now, would I have criticized him for that sack? Absolutely. But better that than the turnover. So, but, unfortunately, it always seems to turn out worse with him. So, moving on to the running backs, Tyrone Tracy the running game started really good. Tyrone Tracy had his first 10 carries, he had 50 yards, and Devin Singletary had 33 yards on 7 carries. Tracy ended up finishing with 66 yards on 16 carries. That last 6 carries weren't as easy. Washington finally started, plugging the run holes a little better. But yeah, the running game started nice. They rushed for over about 164 yards. That includes 54 yards rushing from Daniel Jones, but the run blocking was really good. I think it was arguably the offensive line's best game of the season. So, and no other running backs other than Singletary and Tracy got the ball. Eric Gray, he was on kickoffs. He was pretty good as far as kickoffs is concerned. He averaged 26 yards a return on kickoff. So I'd like to see Eric Gray get some carries, some regular season carries. He looked good except for the fumbles. That's a big except back in the first game against the Commanders. But I'd like to see him take over running back too. And then we could move on from Devin Singletary next offseason. So hopefully get him going and then draft a young running back so we could have 3 running backs on the Giants roster, or go with Turbo Miller that's on the practice squad. So moving on to the wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, 9 catches for 59 yards. He didn't get started to the 3rd quarter. Washington did a good job on him. They contained him the whole first half. Second half, he got a few first downs, and, he looked like the excellent receiver he is, but, they didn't run many deep routes with him, and when they did run deep routes, Daniel Jones got pressured, he ran out of the pocket, and Yeah, again on Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors is not going to be a true star that he has the potential to be until they get a different quarterback. Now, Darius Slayton, the second wide receiver, he had 3 catches for 49 yards. Looked good. He almost scored a touchdown on the deepest pass to him, but he got tackled at the 2-yard line. There was a nice play design where he ran the ball. He was coming across motion, and then they gave him the ball. He got 11 yards. He got tackled around the 2-yard line. So he had 2 plays where he got tackled around the 2-yard line. It would have been nice to see Darius Slayton get a couple touchdowns, but that's not the case. So yeah, Slayton, when he was targeted, he looked good. So and then our third wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, he had 3 catches for 11 yards. His gameplay is starting to decline a little bit. It's just in a better offense with a better quarterback, he'd really be more of a weapon. He's very capable of catching passes down the field. I don't like that he's getting so many short passes. I think he's starting to wear down. He was getting a lot of not breaking tackles, but making yards after the catch earlier in the season that he's not doing this year. And I'm just wondering if it's taking a toll on his body. Again, he's 5'8", 180-something pounds, and he's getting tackled by linebackers. And, he's not getting much room to run after the catch. So I feel like those should be going to a big-bodied receiver or a tight end. So anyway, no other receivers. Jalen Hyatt, he got 4 snaps when Darius Slayton got dinged a little bit, but no targets. Moving on to the tight ends, Theo Johnson had a mixed game. He caught his first pass for like 0 yards, and then he had 3 drops in a row. And he was well covered, but he was certainly capable of catching those catches. But I like that the Giants stuck with him. On the Giants' last possession, when they were still in the game, he caught a 15-yarder, and then he caught a nice 35-yard touchdown catch, his first touchdown as an NFL player. Jones didn't even give him a good throw, really. He was down open over the middle, and he had to reach back behind him and high. But that 6'6" frame and long arms, he was able to do it. So I really hope moving forward they start feeding him the ball. I mean, he got 6 targets. That guy's got to get I would give him 7 to 10 targets a game, every game. He really can be a weapon. And now that he has those catches, defenses will be aware of him. And that'll open up things for Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton, as well as Wan'Dale. Chris Manhertz, their blocking tight end, he had the first touchdown for the Giants. He had a great catch in the back of the end zone. So he plays a lot as far as his snap count, strictly as a blocker, but it's nice to see you do that surprise where hit him every once in a while. So he should get maybe at least 1 target a game, because teams are not paying attention to him as a receiver, and he could hurt teams like that, especially around the goal line like they did. Daniel Bellinger, it's kind of a shame. He just gets in there to block. He showed some potential a couple years ago, but obviously he's not going to unseat Theo Johnson. So we'll see what goes on. I mean, he's a serviceable player, but he's not going to make much impact this year. So moving on to the offensive line, arguably the Giants' best offensive line was this game of the season. The run blocking was very good. Obviously in the second half when they were behind, they didn't get a chance to run as much. But the pass blocking was solid. I would say only about 4 or 5 plays where the pass blocking wasn't very good. There were no jailbreaks. The closest to one was that aforementioned fumble in the first half that Daniel threw right to the defensive tackle. Fortunately, it was ruled a fumble that was down there, but Washington scored like 2 plays later. That was it, really. The right tackle, there was one pressure that got Jones sacked, and then Jones had time where he could have stepped up in the pocket but didn't. So he made the offensive line look worse than it was, and they played well. So yeah, I was really pleased with the offensive line this game. So moving on to the defense, the interior defensive line, even more so than Daniel Jones lost this game for the Giants. Washington's O-line, they were pushing him off the ball. They were even fooling him with some of the misdirection. It was nice play calling on the Commanders' side of the ball for with their offensive line. So the game plan was good and they executed really well. They had the Giants defensive linemen on skates. They couldn't get off the blocks. They couldn't find the ball even when they did get free. Dexter Lawrence had a quiet game, still solid for him. His second game in a row, he didn't get a quarterback sack, but he did get pressures. He did get double teamed a lot. He did make 6 tackles, but more of a solid game from him. Any other defensive tackle would be considered a good game, but he needs help. Nobody else helped. Nacho, DJ Davison, Armin Watts didn't help out. Elijah Chapman, they all had super quiet games. They made tackles down the field because they were just blowing off the ball too much. So unfortunately, it's probably going to be like that the rest of the game, because I don't know how much longer Dexter Lawrence can do so much on his own. So, but he's a star player. He's by far the Giants' best player. So hang in there, Dexter Lawrence. Help is coming, I hope. Moving on to the inside linebackers, because the defensive linemen were getting blown off the ball, sticking to blocks, couldn't find it. That domino effect to the inside linebacker. Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke had 11 tackles and 9 tackles respectively each, but a lot of it was down the field, pushing guys out of bounds. There were a lot of missed tackles by them. It was just unfortunate. Bobby Okereke's not having the same year that he had last year. Micah McFadden's pretty much playing the way he always plays, but these guys need help. They need defensive linemen that can at least prevent offensive linemen from getting to them. Those guys need to be able to run to the ball. And when they do, they need to be solid tacklers, which Okereke is. McFadden's a little up and down as far as his tackling ability, but he is a smaller inside linebacker. But again, they're good enough to win with those guys. We just need interior defensive linemen to keep blockers off of them. Moving on to the edge rushers, Brian Burns and Azeez Ojulari, no sacks between them, a few pressures, very few. Okereke had a couple of quarterback sacks, but hits, but he had probably his worst game since taking over for Kayvon Thibodeau. He has 6 sacks in like 3 games, but unfortunately he didn't get any this game. This game, he was getting caught in all the trash, just like the other linebackers were. Brian Burns had a couple of nice run defenses, and he had a nice pass defense, but not his best game either. So unfortunately, not a good game by the edge rushers. Not a horrible game, but not good enough to win. Moving on to the secondary, the corners, defensive tackle, Deonte Banks, it's a shame because he got benched last week. He had a tough going against Terry McLaurin, the Commanders' #1 wide receiver. He only had 2 catches, but they were both for touchdowns, and he beat Deonte Banks pretty easily. So hopefully Banks bounces back. He's a really talented corner. He doesn't have ball skills, it seems like, but he sticks to his man. I'm just hoping he gets it together and just kind of rebounds. So not too worried about it, but I don't think he's a #1 corner. I think he's a very good #2 corner, and the Giants may still have to get a #1 corner. I don't think they could do it with their 1st or 2nd round pick this year because there's so many other needs, but he's still a good, solid guy to have. Now, cornerback 2, Cordell Flott, was back after. So Flott is serviceable as a #2 corner. He got a big pass interference on the first play. Unfortunately, it was a big play because it was Washington's first scoring drive. It gave them the ball basically at the 2-yard line. And Washington quickly scored. Other than that, he was pretty solid. So Cordell Flott, I like him. He's kind of masking, or he's like a #3 corner masquerading as a #2 corner. So a so-so game in the secondary, really. Washington, Jaden Daniels bought a lot of time, and he was able to complete passes to his wide receivers. So unfortunately, not a bad game by the corners, but not a good game either. Their 4th corner, Dory Jackson, 3rd corner, he made a nice pass defense on Washington's first 3rd down of the game on their first possession, but pretty quiet game afterwards, not good or bad. Rookie Drew Phillips is starting to look like a rookie. After starting off so great, his last couple of games not too good. He got beaten on for a couple of big pass plays last week. This week he had two really big missed tackles. First one was nice, but he had a missed tackle, especially at the end of the half, where Washington was able to score a touchdown. On the very next play was when Jaden Daniels hit Terry McLaurin for the touchdown over Deontay Banks. So tough game for Drew Phillips. He's an excellent tackler, but two big missed tackles this game really hurt him. So as far as the safeties are concerned, not a good game by the safeties. Jason Pinnock didn't make as much tackles. He got caught in the wash also. He took some bad angles. He also he had a chance to probably cause a fumble. There was a throw to a Washington receiver where he had room to light him up and cause a fumble or jar the ball loose in the air, but unfortunately he did not. So yeah, quiet game from Jason Pinnock. Rookie Tyler Nubin, I thought, had his worst game. He had like 5 or 6 tackles, but unfortunately a lot of them were down the field. And what I didn't like was that he was making this couple of tackles where he was just throwing his shoulder and he wasn't wrapping up. He's a big safety. He's got to use the big body and, you know, make solid tackles. He also got beat in coverage. I think on the play that sealed the game for the Washington Commanders, where the pressure was decent on Jaden Daniels and the Washington third receiver got behind him, and I think he was mostly responsible. Both safeties were. So yeah, bad game by the safeties. They did not help at all. Not too worried about it. I mean, Tyler Nubin is a rookie, so he should bounce back. But yeah, definitely probably his worst game of the year. And Jason Pinnock, yeah, he's had a few games in a row where he hasn't played very well. Not really bad, but definitely not a good game from the safeties. So as far as special teams are concerned, nothing bad. Coverage was good. Kickoffs were good. Our new place kicker, he nailed his only point after touchdown and his field goal. Unfortunately, Giants, they went for two two-point attempts, and they were both bad. One of them, Daniel Jones, looked bad again. Nobody was open, but he kind of scrambled forward and tried to run it, where I think he's got to get rid of that ball. So, yeah, unfortunately. So, and then he got sacked on the second two-point attempt, which is kind of ridiculous. You got to get rid of the ball, and just hope one of your playmakers can make a play. You know, it's just taking a sack on a two-point attempt is just horrible. But until we move on from Daniel Jones, it's probably going to be this way. I mean, they'll still win a couple of more games at least this year, but it's going to be tough going. So, well, that's my summary, Giants fans. The interior defensive line and the quarterbacking are what lost this game for the Giants. We got to bounce back. They're in Germany to play the Carolina Panthers, who are arguably the worst team in the league. So, win or lose this game is probably to see who's the worst team in the league. And unfortunately, it may be the Giants. Who knows? People think Carolina's worse, but we'll see. So either way, you got to keep fighting, keep plugging, let these young guys get experience, and, you know, we'll come back and we'll see. And we could still salvage the season. They're not eliminated yet, but, you know, they're 2-7, and it's hard to come back from that. So, all right, thank you, Giants fans. Please like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Take care, y'all.